Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pot Noodle by Celtic Down Under. I'm your host, Shane. I'm filling in for Jared this week, who is away. And it's a pleasure to say that I've been joined on the pod tonight by Dan and Liam. Dan, how are you?
Oh, mate, I am fantastic. You could say I'm just sort of, it's like out walking in a Queen's Park, if you will.
You've been working on that all day, and I love it. Thank you very much, Dan. Liam, how are you, mate? Good to see you.
Great weekend. It was kind of magic, but wasn't quite a night at the opera. But anyway, enough innuendo. Let's get on to the miracle that is Celtic. Yes, those were all Queen albums. Before you go looking them up,
I was on it.
Gone early with the cerebral stuff. I love it. It was a bit too quick for me. Maybe I'm just a little bit too young for that. I shouldn't say that on air, but oh well.
So anyway, what's the news of the world? Anyway.
Now, see, I got that one. I got that reference. That one clicked with me. So all good. All right. So obviously we've got a little bit of a packed pod. There's plenty of things for us to get through, I should say. There's not plenty of us to get through. That'd be a bit weird. So we'll obviously talk about Celtic Raith Rovers. We'll talk about, of course, what we've alluded to, the rather big cup upset as well. And then we'll look forward to our midweek Champions League fixture against Bayern Munich. But before we get into all of that, I just want to give a shout out to everybody who's obviously tuning in, either live or later on. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure, and we really appreciate your support, and definitely love seeing everybody get involved. If you could give us a like and subscribe, we're really trying to grow the community. It's a vibrant community. We really want it to get bigger, and we're keen to get more people involved. So give us a like, subscribe. It helps with the algorithm. We're on all the key socials, Twitter, YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching us now, you know that. Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky. And just get more people involved. Tell a friend. We really love seeing new people get involved with the pod. And it's always a pleasure to have you on board. So cheers for your support. And before I forget, just in the overlay in the middle there between myself, Dan, and Liam, you've got the Celtic Down Under website. It's where you can go to get some pretty cool merch. If I may say so, I'm wearing one. I'm wearing one of the T-shirts. You can get some hoodies. You can get a T-shirt. You can get a drink bottle. So if you are inclined sort of wear some of the CDU merch, just hit up that website and hopefully you get what you're after. All right. With those formalities out of the way, let's get into the discussion points. So we're going to start with our fifth round Scottish Cup fixture against Raith Rovers, which finished Celtic 5, Raith Rovers 0. Might get into the starting lineup, and then I've got a question around that, which I'm keen to get your boys' opinion on. So in goal, we had a debut for Sinisalo. That's been a long time coming. We had an entirely new back four as well. So running left to right, Schlupp gets his starting debut. We had Scales and the return of Dane Murray, who I reckon was probably starting for the first time since those early Champions League qualifiers under Ange. And Ralston at right back. We had a more familiar midfield trio of Bernardo, Kalmack, and Luke McCowan. And then up top, we had Yang, Maeda leading the line, and then Kun on the right. So what I wanted to get your opinion on was just with regards to so many changes. I looked it up before and realised the only two players to keep their spot from the Dundee fixture were Kalmack and Dyson. And Liam, I might go to you first. Considering this was our most recent fixture, or in the lead up to the Bayern game, were you a little bit surprised at the amount of changes that Brendan made? Were you expecting maybe a little bit less than the wholesale changes to the starting 11? What was your take on that?
The changes in the defence surprised me. Playing Dyson as the main striker doesn't really surprise me because we know he's out for the Bayern game, so you want to give him a run out. And you want to protect Ida, obviously, because we're going to need him to be the main man against Bayern. But yeah, it was actually good to see a bit of experimentation and some, likes of Dane Murray getting a shout. And yeah, I think, I'm just looking in the comments. I think Andrew just sums it up perfectly. Well-managed team selection. That's exactly how I would describe it if I wasn't so verbacious.
Yep, that's right. I think that's a really good call. Dan, what was your take on it? Do you see it similar to the way Liam does?
Yeah, look, fairly similar. I think it's clear that there's a need for some rotation. We've got a pretty heavy fixture, or we had a pretty heavy fixture backlog through that sort of January period. We had the Dundee game midweek. Was really happy to see Sinisalo get a start, just get a few minutes under his belt. I think, we may have seen him earlier. I think it was against Falkirk in the Cup, but he was unfit at that point. So it was nice to see him. And I mean, he wasn't all that troubled, but he made a decent save there at one point. I think the behind the goal shot showed the ball was probably not on target, but I don't think he had the time to make that assessment. So it was a good save. Other than that, it's excited to see Dane Murray get a run. I love Luke McCowan. I'm an unabashed Luke McCowan fan, so I was happy to see him get a good run out. And beyond that, just, bringing Calmac off nice and early, wrap him up. That's exactly what I wanted to see, If you're not resting the guys, give them a run. And like Liam alluded to, with our striking options at the moment, we've got to be very protective of Mr. Eder. So, lineup-wise, I was happy to see a bit of rotation and see some guys get some minutes.
I was keen for everything you've just said too, with the likes of Murray getting a start, and obviously played at Villa Park as well in the previous Champions League fixture, or came on at Villa Park, I should say. So I was keen for him to get a start and see what he could do against Raith Rovers. And, no disrespect to Raith, but obviously we have a squad that should be able to, beat them. And, I don't mean that with any disrespect, but, you've got to look pound for pound. We do have a quality squad that should be getting through that fixture. So like yourselves, I was keen for that and keen to see Sinisalo get a start, though that one was much more sort of forced. But I was still, when I look back on it, I thought that the changes were a little bit surprising, just due to the fact that it's our only competitive fixture before Bayern. But I think maybe Brendan made up for that a little bit with the subs, which obviously we saw Hatate, which was forced, and then Engels, Jota come on as well. So I think maybe sort of Brendan was just making sure that they got a little bit of a run out as well. Look, in terms of Raith, they're currently, just a little few notes on our opponents, Raith Rovers. They're currently sitting 7th in the championship. They're managed by former Celt Barry Robson. So he returned to Celtic Park probably for the first time since his stint at Aberdeen. And there are a few names in there I recognised into their team list. So Lewis Stevenson, and there was Hanlon as well. So a couple of Hibs old boys look like they're helping Barry out with their squad. But look, I digress. We'll get into the first half chat now, and maybe Liam, I'll get you to kick us off if that's okay. If you could just give us a general rundown of what you thought of the first half and the goals as well. Fire away, my friend.
Well, it was exactly what you wanted. It was a quick start. It was just put the nerves to bed early, and we could just settle back and enjoy a good open game where we were thoroughly in control pretty much from start to finish. Just to add something on Sinisalo, do you think there's a chance he might become the cup keeper? When we, in the next round, if we get a hard team, like Queen's Park or something,
I might answer that, and then Dan, I'll go to you next for your take. I'm a little bit surprised we maybe haven't seen him until now. I had envisioned that he might have this role a bit earlier on. Maybe not for the League Cup, maybe get over that hurdle initially, but definitely for the Scottish Cup. So I'm a little bit surprised it's taken until now. And I'm pretty sure Schmeichel had a little bit of a knock, which is why they put Sinisalo in. I might be remembering that incorrectly. But I'm pretty sure that's why Sinisalo got the go. But yeah, he didn't do anything to lose his spot. Dan, what do you think of that?
Yeah, look, I don't mind the old cup keeper scenario. That said, it's Casper's first season with the club, and I think he'll probably want to play, as many cup games as he can, and particularly as we get toward the back end. As you said, the big fixtures coming. I really hope we get Queen's Park in the next round. Look, for me, I love the idea, but I can also see, what is he, 36, 37-year-old Casper saying, no, I want to play as many as I can before I go. So it's a tough balance.
You're looking forward to an early Hampden fixture pre-semi-final. That's what you're looking for, aren't you?
early Hampden. I'd like honestly just a bit of a challenge in the cup. One of those. I don't want to get stuck playing a Wii team.
I
think
we've
they
got to be
just
careful,
lost.
though. We've got to be careful. We've got some big games coming up in the next few weeks, and Rangers.
Oh dear, it's going to
This
be a
feels
fun one
mean,
tonight.
this feels mean, but if you go and watch Follow or Hand on Heart or whatever, it's suicide watch over there. So.
Well, we might keep that chatter for a bit later when we touch on that result. Liam, I might go back to you after your the question you posed. I'll get you to run through the remainder of the first half and the goals, if you would, please, sir.
Yeah, well, it was. I'll be honest with you, I only watched highlights because of the timing of the game, but well taken goals, great movement, great fluid play from the team, and then half time we were clearly. There was only going to be one result, and then we came out the second half, and it continued the same way, really.
Just had to bring up one of these prominent comments there that came in from MT Salt. Shout out to you. And one for you, Liam. I know you'll enjoy this one.
Yes, yeah, he is. I've been saying it for years. Dyson could be our main striker easily.
Well, might get Dan your take on the first half as well, and then what you thought of the goals. That would be appreciated. So, Dan, I'll hand the floor to you.
Very similar. I thought it obviously well in control at home against Raith. Credit to them. Like, they were compact and tight, but they didn't sort of turn up and play anti-football or anything like that. There was no sort of lumps being kicked in. Glasgow's oldest club versus Glasgow's youngest club.
Sorry, that was naughty of me to distract you like that, but
it's a perfect comment. And look, those wee little Rangers, they'll get there one day. Scoring early, I think, what was the 6th minute for Maeda, just takes the edge off. Celtic Park can get a little anxious if we don't score early at the best of times. So if things had have dragged on, you could see it getting just a little tense. Not that you're too worried against Raith, but early, good goal. I thought Maeda's second goal was a stunning transition, really good. And I saw posts of that on Twitter and Blue Sky and Reddit out with Celtic or SPFL posting. It was, look at this transition. I think there was, I'm pretty sure they weren't taking the piss, but there was an account that was like Musiala Stan Bayern won, and they were like, man, this Celtic team's going to be a battle this week or something. And I'm like, okay, I know it's been said by other people across sort of other clubs, but Europe are starting to take notice of at least one club in Scotland, and it was nice to see that sort of highlight makes. I don't think it was the best goal of the game. I thought, and we'll come to the second half, but I thought Yang's goal was the absolute pick of the bunch. I thought it was a perler. And Calmac went very close as well with the one that sort of hit right in the corner of the crossbars. So quality, good control, very comfortable. Probably could have scored 3 or 4 more if things had gone our way, but professional job, you move on.
So I had a couple of notes from the first half when I watched this in piecemeal capacity. I watched the first half one day and the second half pretty much at lunchtime today. So I was it was very disjointed, but the early goal was crucial. That obviously calms the nerves. Look, a cup fixture like that, as much as I was saying before that we have the team that should get through, anything can happen. It's the magic of the cup, which is a commonly used phrase here for our Australia Cup. And yeah, that early goal, obviously very much a nerve settler, as both of you lads have said. And look, we actually came close on a couple of occasions from distance. Calmac and Kun with a couple of shots that basically whizzed past the upright. But I actually thought from about the 10th or 15th minute onward that Raith seemed to just make it very difficult for us to play. I found that the space that we had early on wasn't there. I felt we couldn't really play through the lines. McCowan found it a little bit difficult to find that space. I think as a result, we were a bit more cautious with the ball. And I actually put that down more to the way Raith played and the pressure they put on. And I don't think they necessarily sat deep. I think they did try to play out and they tried to hit us where they could. It just that they weren't able to make anything happen. That said, they had a couple of moments. Say the Sinisalo save, which drew the corner. They had a couple of moments. Obviously, the long throw, which is what actually led to the transition for our second goal. And I think, unfortunately, that really deflated them. Just before halftime, it was 1-0. They'd started to work themselves into the game. I wouldn't say necessarily well, but they were stopping us from playing our preferred, I guess, pace. And that goal just on halftime from what was a throw deep in our half, I think really kind of deflated them. So it was a bit of a pity. I'll just have a look. We've got a couple of comments here, which I might bring up before we go into the second half chat. So just one from Maestro there. And when Celtic go forward, anyone in the front six can score with pace, but who keeps up with Dyson? I'm not sure Superman can keep up with Dyson sometimes. He's that quick. Liam, do you know anybody at all, superhero or not, that could keep up with Dyson?
Maybe Wile E. Coyote, one of the big Acme Rockets.
I wasn't expecting that. That caught me off guard. The Acme Rocket. The old Acme Rocket.
You made it really sound like a euphemism there, just quietly. I don't know what you were alluding to, but the old Acme Rocket.
The old Acme Rocket. Yep, that one's going to get played on the highlight reel. The good Rebel, it was refreshing to watch such a professional and relentless performance after 9 changes to the team. Been saying since preseason that Maeda would be more effective than Kyogo as a striker. It's definitely becoming that discussion point. I've definitely said what I think about it and how I generally feel about him playing up top. And every time I make the comment, he tends to play better and better. So I'm going to keep criticizing it because he tends to score more and more. So, yes. All right. Well, we might dive into the second half now. And Dan, I might get you to kick us off. So similar approach. Give us your take on the second half and the goals. Over to you.
Yeah, look, very similar. I thought, as you said, I thought that second goal probably broke the spirit a little bit for Raith, and it's probably the difference. You know, the top team in the SPFL is going to be switched on for those moments where teams that are in the second division, they're going to have those little lapses. And once they sort of came out in the second half, it was quite quick. It was only 48th minute, I think, when McCowan, who's got just seems like he's got a bit of a knack. He can just sort of pop up and get on the end of a ball. And as I just said, I'll say it again, I just love him. I'm so pumped to see him score and his involvement. I think his work rate was through the roof. There were still moments you sort of alluded to with Raith where I thought they didn't stifle us fully, but you could see that they did have that good discipline and they were able to hold a good line for periods of time and certainly cut down our options moving forward. And it took a couple of, daring balls or some quick movement to get the better of them. And I thought the Yang goal, which came on 56 minutes, just a beautiful ball from the big brickie on the right, Tony Ralston, and a great finish from Yang, which is great to see. You know, he cops plenty of pelters, Hyunjin Yang, but I'm one, and look, now that Luis Palmer's gone, I can say it. I'm one where I really want to support anyone that's wearing the hoops. So it's, I'm happy to see him get a goal, happy to see him contribute. And from there, it was just a matter of making sure we got the hat trick for Maeda, and even with the changes sort of run through, and they brought Arnie Engels and Jota on, which felt more for minutes ahead of Bayern than anything else. But a nice Johnny Kenny sighting and a very rare Mike Narochki signing coming on for Schlupp. Got about 20 minutes, I think. So that was nice to see. I'd sort of forgotten he existed. They put the board up, and I was like, it's Mike Narochki. Gustav Lagerbiel could be coming out next. Who are these guys? So strong, good performance. As I said, much more of a continuation of the first half. Clinical, got the job done, and good to see some minutes for guys, as I said, like Johnny Kenny.
I'm going to give a shout out to our regular listener and viewer Robert Gibson, who I think would have appreciated your Palmer comment. So shout out, Robert, if you're tuning in, give us a hello or give us your usual in the comment section. We'll know you're there. I agree with you pretty much on everything you said about the second half, and most particularly the Yang goal. Tony Ralston can put a decent ball into the box. Like the first half, he put one in. Maeda was offside, but it was a good ball in, and we scored from it, but it was rightly ruled out for offside. This one was a very similar ball. I give him the credit to say that he was looking to hit Yang at that back post. I don't think that was overhit like the commentators alluded to, or the stream that I was tuning into. I reckon that was definitely meant for Yang, and credit to Yang too. He saw the space. The right back for Raith, Doherty, I think it was, didn't track the run at all. Raith's Yang could see that and then moved himself into that space. And it's a good finish. If you look at where he actually collects that ball, he could have easily mishit that. And I thought that was a really tidy finish. So not sure I'd give it necessarily I'd not try to have it as the pick of the goals. I probably prefer the counter attack in the first half to that, but it was a good goal in terms of build up and finish from Yang. And it's the kind of game where you want to see him actually do well in. Like these are the kind of fixtures where he's going to get an opportunity and you want to see what he can offer. And as Andrew was saying in the comments here, which I'll just bring up, as much as we do give him some pelters sometimes, Yang is still young and raw. And he's had a couple of games now. He's put in decent shifts and starting to put in more complete performances. And it may have only been Raith, but he still looked good, and credit to him. So, but yeah, agree with pretty much the rest of your take on the second half. Liam, did you want to add anything at all, mate?
No, I think we pretty much covered it all. Let's get on to some hand scalping, shall we?
I'm trying to hold back the storm here. I'm trying to hold back the water from coming in or something like that. It's incredible. We've got to do man of the match. We've got to talk about key players first. I'm just keeping you at bay for now until you let rip. I know. Right. And I'm sure everyone in the comments is doing exactly the same. But
it's like being a kid on Christmas morning. You're just waiting to get up. It's too early.
And then I just realised the man of the match discussion is going to be pretty much a fait accompli. Did anyone have anything different to Dyson Maeda as man of the match?
Look, I thought Sinisalo's early save was good. No, it's got to be the Dyson show, doesn't it? And
I'm actually just looking up how many shots they had. They only had one shot on target, and I think that was the Sinisalo save that was going wide, and he managed to parry it into a corner anyway. So that was his entire involvement. So yeah.
And look,
Liam, anything
as a keeper myself, that's what you want.
Well, we've got the keeper society on, really, yourself and Liam, the keeper army here. I'm not strong enough to be a keeper, so I'm going to have to defer to you, gentlemen. So Liam, did you want to add anything about Sinisalo's keeping performance and then man of the match?
It's just always good to get a clean sheet on your debut, regardless of the circumstances of it. So that's a good start for him. And shout out to Luke McCowan. I think if not for Dyson's goals, he would have been a contender for man of the match as well. He was excellent throughout. Yeah, just as I said.
I think we're all unabashed fans of Luke McCowan. I love him as well, and I love his movement, and I love the link up he has. He's got this understanding with Maeda. They've linked up a couple of times, even before now, and I'm really enjoying seeing him play. And even with Maeda playing more of that central role, McCowan just he has this knack of finding that space between the lines, and even if he's got his back towards goal, that awareness to know where he can play the ball out left or right. He's very, very good. Well,
I'm enjoying all the memes. Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, I'm enjoying all the Dyson memes too, photoshopping him into the original Ronaldo and Henry Glassing with the dreadlocks. Like, I love them.
Our Lord and Savior, Dyson Maeda. That's my favourite one at the moment.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get into what was another pretty big result in the fifth round of the Scottish Cup, and that happened Oh, just overnight. And I'll lead in by saying that I didn't get up and watch this game, but when I woke up and checked my phone this morning, I did have to double take when I read the score, which was Rangers 0, Queen's Park 1. It finished 1-0 to Queen's Park at Ibrox. This is Queen's Park, who are sitting 5th in the championship at the moment. Scored with their only shot of the game and withstood a barrage, and I say that in quotation marks, of meaningless attacks from Rangers. But I know you boys want to let rip, so Liam, you've been very patient. I might hand to you. What does this all mean for Rangers? What does this mean for Clermont? What did you make of the result?
Well, I'm going to send Rangers the bill for my medical bills, because I split my sides this morning when I saw that result. But the better part of it wasn't just the result; it was the reaction. That's the part we all really enjoy, isn't it? I mean, you see that, I can't remember his name, the guy that does Rangers Rabble. I don't think he's been that upset since he found out his sister was dating somebody else. Honest to God. It really is it's a sight to see, and it's an absolute joy to see, and I cannot get enough of their tears. Honest to God, I just cannot get enough of it. The actual game itself was comedy gold, with the whole thing of like they got the penalty and it still wasn't enough to save them.
And
good old
Tavernier
with his easily savable penalty.
I'm so glad you said that, Dan. I'm sorry to jump in, Liam, but that was as soft a penalty as I've seen. I couldn't believe it was given, and then I had a word with myself and said, no, I can see exactly why it's been given.
Yeah.
On you go, Liam.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Queen's Park keeper had a hell of a game. He had a really good game again, I only watched the highlights. And, it's not easy to watch highlights with your phone only in one hand, I could make a Spider-Man joke about producing my own webbing, but I won't bother. Right, anyway. So, yeah, they got the ultra soft penalty, but justice was done when it was saved. And then the keeper made a brilliant save right after that as well from the corner. So Queen's Park were worthy of it. They deserved the win, and it was really, really, really funny to see the fallout. I honestly think this might be the most broken I have seen them since 2012. Like, we have seen some absolute meltdowns from the Huns, but my God, the last 24 hours have just been absolutely incredible. And it's only going to get better, because they've got a good few days now to stew on it, and they all know, none of them will say it, but they all know that you can't afford to sack that manager. So they are stuck with him until he decides to walk away. And quite frankly, if I was getting his money, I would say, no. I'd run Rangers into the ground for half that money.
Well, just before I get on to you, Dan, just a shout out to Henry McLaughlin. What's happening, Southern Hemisphereans? Well, we're having a bit of fun, if you can't tell. If you just joined us now, we're in a very jovial mood, as I'm sure is coming across. But look, it's a massive result. There were 9 shots on target, so he saved them all. Callum Ferry's his name. Who Dan wanted to join the pod as Callum Ferry in the name section. So I hope I'm not giving away your powder there, Dan. But yeah, he had a tremendous game. He made a couple of really important saves. And that last minute penalty award was really a very, as Andrew put it before, a very typical Rangers penalty. And the game that Ferry had, he didn't deserve to concede any goal, let alone from a dodgy penalty. And so I'm so glad he saved it, which went out for a corner, and they had another attack to deal with before they got to the final whistle. So a really big result. Obviously, yes, it's left one half of Glasgow, if you will, I guess, completely broken. It basically means that domestically, let's be honest, they're going to win no trophies this season. And I think it's very unlikely they're going to go anywhere significant in the Europa League. So they're looking at a trophyless season. Dan, I'm sure there's plenty you want to add. I'm not even going to ask if you want to add something. I know you do. So I'm just going to hand to you.
I was just going to say, and I was trying to think of the perfect way to phrase it, and I thought, there's wee little Huns out there that have seen Callum Ferry keep a clean sheet at Ibrox before they've seen Rangers lift a trophy. And that, I hope, will be the little part that breaks those little hearts. I hope there's little tears. I hope they're gutted. I hope this is, you heard it years ago, your children will be Celtic fans, and they will be. Because why would you choose if you had any option? You look at the Rangers stars who are live streaming themselves was the penalty gets missed. Why would you want to associate with these absolute pond scum when just down the road on the other side of town you've got the most successful club in Scottish history that's in the last 16 or the last playoff knockout phase of the Champions League? We're off to play Bayern Munich while the Huns, and I know it was the youngest club in Scotland against the oldest, but at this point, you know, I went to bed, and like yourself, I'm not getting up at 4:30, whatever it is, to watch them. Don't even like doing it to watch us sometimes. It's ridiculous, particularly the 2 a.m. kickoff. It's awful. I went to bed and I thought, I reckon the wee team just could get a little something out of this. And I woke up and I checked my phone and I thought, I really thought Rangers might get a win there. But anyway, I guess tradition moves on and the older team continues. What a joyous experience. And we spoke about it briefly before we came on, but for people of a certain vintage who grew up and watched Celtic through sort of the early to mid 90s and had, you know, we in hindsight, we know they were cheating. We know it's all, you know, a house of cards and it all fell down. But at the time, it was devastating. It was heartbreaking. It was so hard. There was so little there was no hope that for a period there. I remember as a kid, why are we following this team? They look so much bigger. They're better. And yep, they're cheating. They're done. They're nothing. Now I'm a 35-year-old man, as Liam said, watching the highlights with one hand on the phone because they get beat at home by Queen's Park. And I can't imagine the level of mental gymnastics for those older ones who still think it's the same club to get to this point. There's broken brains. I love it. You got your soft bullshit penalty. Callum Ferry. Honestly, I still might get a Queen's Park jersey. I think it's great. I don't even know if they sell the keeper kit, but you know how most little clubs don't even sell the keeper kit, so maybe that's a special order. But at this point, tell me a Callum Ferry jersey wouldn't look great up there, just as an eternal reminder. Don't tell my wife I'm even considering that. She already thinks I spend ridiculous money on stupid shit all the time. What more can I say? How good is it?
Surely, I'm going to step in here. Surely there will be some Callum Ferry jerseys available. I mean, there's going to be so many people wanting to buy that jersey, not just Queen's Park fans, of course, but obviously fans of other clubs who really just want to celebrate what was a tremendous performance in goal. I would be very surprised if they don't make some even on just order there. So
I'm on it right now.
There you go. Look at that. Live ordering and checking it out as we speak. And then shout out, of course, to Callum Davidson, the gaffer of Queen's Park. He strikes again, getting over the top of Rangers in a cup fixture. You know, I still think they've won the same amount of Scottish Cups as Nuco, I believe. That's I'm pretty sure that's it. Or if they're not, they're one ahead of Nuco. So
they're one ahead, I believe. Yeah.
There you go. So oh boy! So that is the first time that Queen's Park are making the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup since 1982. So that's about 33 years now. And this might, even just generally speaking about them, this might be the catalyst that they need to take them a bit further up the table in the championship. They had a really good season. I can't remember if it was last season or the season before where they were on the cusp of actually promotion back to the premiership. They kind of just tailed away in the playoffs. They're sort of there and abouts again, and it'd be wonderful to see them come up to the premiership.
I think there's a bit.
It's kind of funny though, seeing the Huns getting undone by a ferry, considering how many of them got jobs at the shipyards during the war. You know.
There it is. We set them up, you knock them down. That's the way this goes.
Full behind the curtain moment. Do you know how long I spent thinking of a dodge, and draft dodge pun before that, and I just couldn't make it work. I love it.
I think the other thing to touch on with them and their squad, just having a look, is that sure, there might have been a few changes there, but the squad they rolled out against Queen's Park, save for maybe one or two names, is a squad that I'm sort of familiar with name-wise. So I don't think we had the equivalency of what Brendan did against Raith Rovers. And then even then, just how desperate this was, Cyril Dessers came on just after halftime. That's how desperate things were. And even poor Cyril couldn't make a difference, which wasn't really that surprising. And John Suter came on in the 60th minute. Again, one of those quality moments where you need to sub on a defender because you're 0-0 with Queen's Park. Who knew? But boys, we've obviously covered off a fair bit. Is there anything else you wanted to add on this before we move forward? The comment section is blowing up, I should add, by the way. So
I would just like to offer a note of it. Sorry, mate. I would just like to offer a note of solidarity and support for any Huns partner, sibling, or family pet that suffered last night as a result of what happened. And I realise in the average Hun household that might be a single entity, but just anyway. Moving on.
All I was going to say was I really hope this loss doesn't jeopardise Jeffy's £50 million move to Chelsea.
Well, that you've heard different word to Smell the Gloves. Smell the Gloves come in with $20 million, so he's gone up $30 million after they lost to Queen's Park. That's impressive mathematical gymnastics.
That's about as good as that. They're still getting money for Malik Tillman every time he does something. So,
very good point. Surely, I mean, we've skirted around Philip Clement in this discussion, of course, but we all kind of scoffed when they gave him the extension before the season started, despite not really producing anything of significance warranting that. We all kind of just thought, how can they possibly go down this path? And it's coming to pass now. They're in a position where they would have struggled to remove him anyway, but now, obviously, with that added contract, he's hanging on and saying, hang on, if you're going to get rid of me, you owe me. And really, they kind of, I guess, they're in that situation where they want him to walk away. He's going to double down and say, no, I can turn it around. And the only thing that can really happen is someone else comes in and takes him, really. But, who on earth is going to come in for Philip Clement at this point and say, this is the guy to lead us going forward? I don't think anybody. I remember there was that chatter about Belgium sort of coming in and he was going to be the national team gaffer. That is fanciful at best. Liam, how does this end? Do you think eventually they're going to pull the pin on Clement?
I mean, unless there's a group of lemmings that want to start a football team, nobody's going to touch him, are they? I mean, it's the guy might actually walk away for the sake of his own career, because he did have a half decent reputation before he went there, and the longer he stays at that club and the longer it continues in that downward spiral, because I think the penny is finally dropping for some of them that they are not even close to the same level as Celtic, right? The rivalry, which was artificially kept going for decades with money they didn't have, any semblance of rivalry died in 2012 along with that club. And I think now the penny's finally dropping for them. And does Clement really want to be a manager of a club that's going to have to compete with Hearts and Aberdeen to finish second every year? Because realistically, apart from the odd cup here and there, that's what they've got to look forward to for the next, probably decades. And it's all of their own doing, because they just refused to play fair. And karma is one sexy bitch.
Dan, was there anything you wanted to add at all?
Yeah, look, I'll just go on from Liam's point. When they first appointed Clement, obviously I my Google searches, and he didn't have a great time at Monaco, but the pedigree was strong. He had a really good record at Club Bruges. I think it was Genk. Before that, the club that paid us £4 million for Ohian Go. And I thought, okay, they've got a guy here. And look, man for man, we've got a much better squad and a much better team. But all right, we're in a bit of flux. New manager, let's see what happens. And I just, looking back now, I don't think I could have ever foreseen the comedy value in not just the performances and the results, but the straight faces when he's talking absolute shit. Like I think he even said this morning, they're still on, we've got to go back and continue our league title campaign and just get, and it's like, mate, the best deadpan comedians in the world, Mitch Hedberg couldn't do this shit. So fair play to Big Phil. You'll eventually, I think there's did someone say they were going to start a GoFundMe called We Are the PayPal to get rid of him? If they manage to do that, if they manage to scrounge up the shekels and look, I don't know what the payout will be, but if they couldn't come up with £400 to get Lyle Cameron in January, they can't pay him out. And if he doesn't walk for his own career and mental health, and they do manage to get him out, I'll shed a tear that day. I'm going to miss Big Phil.
One of the best deadpan comedians I know is Milton Jones, and I swear he's getting material from Clement when he watches him. He's literally got the notepad out going, saying, this is comedy gold. I agree with you wholeheartedly. So, look, I think we have covered that one off a fair bit. I think this all stems back to what we've seen before. And we saw it again a few weeks ago now, maybe even a month or so ago now, when they did happen to humble us 3-0 at Ibrox that day, and when we played horribly. And then the chest beating starts, and it all kicks off again. And then their very next fixture, they go and drop points. In fact, they drop points in the next two fixtures. And you were just talking exactly about that, Dan, exactly sort of how this pans out every single time. So some would say, some might say it's disappointing. I don't think we would, but some would. All right, there's a comment section definitely blown up a fair bit. I'm going to show this one from Graham Bell just because we're talking comedy value. Pedro Cachinha Clement.
No. He's got a long way to go to match Pedro in the hedge in Luxembourg. That is.
Oh, I don't know.
That is peak banter years right there.
The picture behind the fence still gets me. Where was he watching the under-20s or something, and he's like looking through that gets me every time. He looks like a weed dealer outside of high school.
I always remember him going toe to toe. I think it was with Sutton when they were away at in Perth against St Johnstone, and Sutton just reeled him in beautifully and just toyed with him. This was on one of the pre-match interviews, and Sutton just made him look completely silly. And that wasn't at that point. It maybe hadn't been that well established just yet, but he completely showed him up. And I'll never forget that bit of a car crash of a pre-match interview. But anyway, thanks for everyone's comments on that. That definitely got the comment section flying, that's for sure. I might bring things back to a Celtic matter, if that's okay. I think we've all had a little bit of fun there with that result. Shout out to Queen's Park, of course. Maybe we'll see you in the quarterfinals. Henrik McLaughlin makes a very good point. On Celtic matters, can I ask, if he's going to score a hat-trick, can we please let Maeda bring on his kids as mascots for every match? That was a heartwarming moment. I loved it. And I think he genuinely, as if he couldn't play any better at the moment, I think that gives him an extra boost. Liam, where do you stand on that? Do you think maybe we should just get Dyson to walk out with his kids every single match day from here on in?
Hey, if it gets that kind of performance out of him, yes, absolutely. Just on the subject of Dyson, I noticed that the last couple of matches, he's been doing his post-match interviews in English, which hopefully that bodes well for him wanting to be here for a while yet. You know, that he's actually clearly going to the effort to learn and use English. Something that, no disrespect to him, it's something that Kyogo never really showed much interest in doing. So hopefully, Dyson's family look to be very happy in Scotland, and he clearly seems to be very happy. So I hope that's a sign that he's here for the long haul.
I've got a question which I might throw to you second, Liam. I'll get Dan's take on it first and come back to you because you're all about Dyson and we love it. And you've been big on Dyson since day dot, even before he came to the club, of course. Dan, Dyson's been in tremendous form this season and most certainly over the last 3 weeks. Has he ever been in as good a form as he is now? Or has he reached a whole new level that we've not seen from him in the past few seasons? Because I don't think he's played as well. He's been fantastic, but he's on another level right now. And I'm curious to see whether everyone else agrees.
100%. He's had some really good performances, but I think up until sort of the last couple of months, a big hallmark for Dyson was that for every great thing he'd do, there was a really shonky cross or there was a really wild, woeful shot or just something totally, unbecoming of a player of his ability. And you would have that amazing duality of the wonderful and the not so wonderful. And you usually sort of, I guess, caveat that by saying, well, if he did everything perfectly all the time, he wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have him. He'd be, off playing for Barcelona or Real Madrid or something. But the consistency just seems there. His athleticism is unmatched. I've never seen a guy run and run and run. I think 5-0 up against Raith, 90th odd minute, and he's still pressing and putting pressure on fullbacks and phenomenal stuff. This seems to be this golden period where he's struck consistency with strong performances. It's probably no coincidence that he's also starting to play a little more centrally. Even when he's been playing on the wing, he has come in centrally on more than one occasion. And as we're seeing now that he's getting a run out in the traditional, number 9 role, there is a good instinct for goal there. And I think we're starting to see that as well. So I think he's wonderful. He's, from what I've seen, and obviously, I'm not going to sit here and profess to be a huge J-League watcher. This is career best performances from what I've seen, and I'll defer to Liam in terms of his Japanese performances, but he's wonderful.
Well, I might just jump in before you do, Liam. I think I know exactly what you're going to say on that question. I think you'll most certainly agree. So I'll put to you a slightly different question. What do you think is the reason behind Dyson reaching this new level? Was it just a case of time? Has something changed in the way that he plays? Is there something that you've observed? What is the catalyst for him reaching this new level?
Well, there's a few things. He's become since he joined Celtic, he's become much more kind of indispensable to the Japan national team, which is bizarre when you think that, the reason why Kyogo wasn't getting a game for the national team was supposedly because he played for Celtic, and yet Dyson is in the form of his life ever since he signed for Celtic, at international and club level. But also, I think that Kyogo leaving, a lot of people were talking about how, this is Adam Ida's chance to step up and be the main man. And I think Dyson's been like, well, I can do that. I did it in Yokohama. I did it with Yamaga. I can do it at Celtic. And he's doing it. That's what it is. He is now seeing an opportunity to become our main striker. Because I always knew he had it in him. But it's one of those things that comes from having watched the players, since he was like 20 years old to now, and knowing that. I mean, it could just be the hair as well. Aye, fair enough. But no, it's part of the development of. I think Dyson has always been a player who has thrived on being given responsibility. I mean, when he was at Matsumoto Yamaga, he basically carried that entire team for most of the season, right? They were a first division team who had one season in the top flight in Japan, then went back down to the second tier, and they're now in the third tier, right? Dyson absolutely carried that entire team, and to this day he's the only Matsumoto Yamaga player ever to be called up to a Japan squad while playing for Yamaga. So that kind of speaks volumes to it. And you could see then that he thrives on challenge, and clearly Kyogo leaving is a challenge. And it's even more abundantly clear now that it's a challenge because we didn't sign a replacement. So it's basically Dyson has got to prove that he's a better striker than Ida or John Kenny. And I think he's doing that so far.
Yep, and Graham Bell, love this comment as well. We talk about it ad nauseum, but his work rate is... we talk about Dyson being on a new level, but his work rate and his intensity's always been on another level since he's signed for Celtic. Yeah, really good points, guys. Thank you. We might move away from that discussion now and look forward to what we've got coming up midweek. So on Wednesday night, 8 p.m. at Paradise, Celtic play Bayern Munich in their Champions League knockout fixture. So that translates time-wise to 7 a.m. here in Melbourne, 6 a.m. in Queensland, 4 a.m. in Perth. Shout out to all our Perth followers and the lads who follow us on the Weekend Review, who will be on later tonight. And then 5 a.m. for yourself in Japan, Liam. So a nice early start for pretty much every one of us around this part of the world. I'm going to give a shout out to Rory Hamilton on Premier Sports. And by way of that, I'm also going to make mention for anyone who's in Australia who's looking to watch the Scottish Cup. If you do have a Paramount Plus subscription, the Scottish Cup is on that streaming service as well. So you can watch it there live and on demand later. And we get the Premier Sports stream through that. And Rory made a really interesting comment, which is this is going to be Celtic's first Champions League knockout fixture for 12 years, which dates us back to 2013. And we got through in a group that had Barca, Celtic, Benfica, and Spartak Moscow. We got through second in that group. That was the famous Champions League group where Tony Watt scored the winner against Barca at Celtic Park, or to put us 2-0 up, I should say. And then we went on and played Juventus in the next round, which didn't bode super well for us. But the less said about that, the better. So 12 years since we've played a knockout fixture in the Champions League. Bayern currently sitting first in the Bundesliga. They're about 8 points ahead of Leverkusen at the moment. Their Champions League form was interesting. They finished 12th. They had 5 wins and 3 losses. They had a couple of big wins, including a massive belting of Zagreb. I think it was like 9-2 or something like that. But they had 3 losses as well. They got done by Barca. They lost away to Villa. So, there may be an avenue there for us. So, they're obviously in good league form. Champions League form, maybe not at the same level. The first big question, Liam, I'll go to you. How do we overcome the loss? We've just talked about him, so we're going to tie it in. How do we overcome the loss of Dyson Maeda in such a key fixture?
Well, it's on Adam Ida to step up and do the job. He believes he can do it. I think a lot of us believe he can do it as well. He's shown that he's a capable striker, and there is no better stage for him to become Celtic's main man than against Bayern Munich. I mean, Bayern Munich, they're no Queen's Park, but they're a very good team. So, actually, just one wee quick point on that. You mentioned that the Scottish Cup is on Paramount Plus in Australia. I mean, that's great for the Huns, isn't it? Because they can watch the game, then they can switch over to Frasier and get their therapy for the same subscription. Anyway, moving on.
Right there.
That was good.
Dan, to you on the back of that wonderful line, how do you see us overcoming the loss of Dyson? Do you agree Adam Ida is the one that has to take on the bulk of the responsibility?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the actual wing spot, obviously we're going to miss everything about Dyson Maeda that we just spoke about, but the actual spot on the wing is not such a concern. With Jota coming in, we can comfortably slot Jota on the left and Kuhn on the right. We've seen, 3 goals since we sold Kyogo for Adam Ida, 2 against Aston Villa and 1 against, was it Motherwell? We're seeing signs, like he'd gone for a fairly considerable period without scoring and looked a man bereft of confidence. But already I think he looks like he's ready to rise to that challenge. He's such a calm and almost lackadaisical sort of looking guy. He looks very unfazed by it all. I think that can sometimes be construed as disinterest, but I certainly don't think that's the case. 2 very good goals against Aston Villa in, at a point there where it looked like this was a real game on our hands at that point when it was 2-0 to 2-2. So, yeah, look, obviously Ida's got to be the man up top, particularly this week without Dyson. Johnny Kenny could come on and do something Tony Watt-esque. But, we'll be looking to the big Irishman and, a goal or 2 against Bayern, and, he's gone a huge way to repaying the outlay that we spent for him.
Yeah, very much agreed. Okay, so do you see Brendan doing anything a little bit differently against Bayern? Do you see us maybe setting up slightly differently? And we'll get to our starting lineups in a second. But Liam, I'll come back to you on that. Do you see us handling things a little bit differently? Are we going to go and try and play the same way we usually do? Do you see a little bit more pragmatism? Do you see even potentially a change of shape? What's your take?
I think over the same formation. I think that's the Brendan Rodgers style. That's what we have to play to. And, as Dan mentioned, having signed Jota back, we want to really utilise the wingers, and the best way to do that is with the formation that we have at the moment. So I don't see that changing. Where you might have some room for changes in the midfield, I think that now personally I would go with Hatate, but I think you can make a case for switching him out for Bernardo if you want something a bit more solid in the midfield. I would have no qualms about putting McCowan in there either, because I think he's shown that he's capable as well, and he is another one like Ida who I think could really thrive if given a platform at the top level. So the midfield is the one area of the team where I think there's still a bit of fluidity and a bit of scope for change, but the defence picks itself. The goalie obviously picks himself, provided he's fit, and necessity is it's going to be Kuhn, Ida, and Jota as a front 3. So,
well, Dan, on that point that Liam made about the starting lineup, I might go to you to just give us who you think will be in our starting 11 come Wednesday night / Thursday morning our time. So, do you want to just reel off who the Celtic starting 11 will be?
Yeah, so I've just spoken with Brendan, and he's confirmed it will be the 4-3-3 formation. Even going in, I thought we kept similar formation against Atalanta, but we obviously changed the way we actually played within the formation a little bit, so I can see something similar. But I've got Schmeichel, Alistair Johnson, and the only toss-up for me is Greg Taylor or Jeffrey Schlupp. But I think there's plenty of faith been shown in Greg Taylor in the big games, so he'll probably start at left back with Austin Trusty and Cameron Carter-Vickers, your 2 centre halves. Midfield 3, for me, McGregor, Engels, and Hatate. I get what Liam said around the solidity with Paolo Bernardo, but for me, Hatate is just that game breaker who could certainly ping the right ball or really open something up. So I'd be throwing him in there with the front 3 of Jota, Ida, and Kuhn. So pretty straightforward, not a lot of shocks there, but I think there's as good a chance as any.
Just on your Bernardo point, and before I come to you for your starting 11, Liam, if you've got any differences, Henrik McGlassen is Bernardo okay? So he obviously rolled his ankle against Raith and then had to come off. Brendan came out and said that it was just a rolled ankle, and it was more even though he sort of seemed to struggle initially, it was more precautionary, and so he's expected to be right for the fixture. So he should, if he's not starting, should at least be on the bench. And Anne, I love your comment. This is like a comedy show. I'm going to take that as a really positive comment. I hope it's meant positively. And thank you for tuning in. We do appreciate your support, and we try to give everyone a laugh as well as make it factual. So cheers, Anne. Thank you. Liam, did you have anything different to Dan's starting 11?
No, I'll just rattle through it. Schmeichel, Taylor, Carter-Vickers, Trusty, Johnson. Midfield would be McGregor, Hatate, and Engels. Then the front 3 we've already mentioned: Jota, Kuhn, and Ida. That's my team right there.
Agree with you, learned gentleman. I just want to bring up this comics. I don't think you saw it while you were reading off your starting 11, Liam.
Well, I was firing out a few webs this morning, but let's leave it at that.
There you go. I set him up. You knock him down. All right. I definitely very much agree with your comments around the starting 11. So score predictions. I'm going to go first. I'm going to be very positive. I'm going to say that we're going to take a 2-1. We're going to win 2-1, and we're going to take that back to Munich. So a 2-1 win with Jota and Kun scoring the goals. Liam?
I think it's going to be 3 each. 3 each. And then I think we'll go to Germany and we'll sneak a 1-0. There you go.
And Dan?
I also had 2-1. I had a headed goal from Cameron Carter-Vickers to open the scoring. Bayern equalise, and in the 94th minute, Adam Eder bundles home it's scrappy because it's like a in the box scrap tangle. It's all over. Poacher's goal, knocks it home, and it's pure pandemonium.
There you go. We're just talking about Maeda there. Bit of frustration from NT Celts that Maeda will be missing, obviously, for that red card. I think we're all in disappointment that Maeda won't be there, and it's a big loss for us. Just want to bring up another comment from before regarding Anne. So Pork Schlup Express. I love the change of name from Mr. Pork Chop to Mr. Pork Schlup Express. Appreciate that. And yes, Anne, if you meant the comments instead of us, well, I hope we're at least still enjoyable enough to watch. But shout out to the comments section, which has been on fire tonight, and definitely plenty of humor in there. So, Anne, if you're enjoying the comments section more than us, I understand, and shout out to those who are making it happen in the comments section. Got a couple of score predictions coming in, which I'll quickly go to. So, Pork Schlup Express. Try and say that with a mouthful of marbles. Never happening. 1-1 first leg, and we step up in München for a 2-1 over there. Let me just minimize that one. And then we'll go to MT Celts, who's put in the score prediction of 2-0 at home and 2-1 defeat away. Very respectable scoreline. Absolutely. And from Mizuno, I'm always hopeful, happily clapping the boys. I think we're always in that position, really. I think we always go into this. Look, it's a daunting task. They're a daunting opposition. But Paradise on a European night is genuinely like nowhere else. And if anything is going to get the boys across the line on Wednesday, it's that environment that is simply unparalleled. And I know it's going to be packed, and I know everybody in there is going to be cheering the boys on as they look to get that result and take it back to Munich. So I'm very, very confident we can actually come out of this with a win, just based on the form that we've been in. All right. Well, I think that's covered off everything, everybody. So I just wanted to give everyone no. Dan's got something breaking.
We got a bit of breaking news. Ali McCoy's has called in sick to talk sport today.
Well, there you go. And that's the perfect time to add this comment, which was in relation to Celtic Park, but I still think it was in relation to Celtic Park, but still fits nicely, which is raise the roof. And,
not Kamar roof, surely.
Not Kamar roof, definitely not. And we need the crowd to bring the fear for Bayern. Our crowd's always incredible, and week in, week out, really, but on European nights under those lights, it's genuinely magical. And that's from someone who's never set foot in Celtic Park personally. I've never had the chance to, and I know from afar just how special it is. Lord knows how exactly I'd feel if I actually did walk into Celtic Park, and that will happen one day. Anyway, I digress. I think we've reached the end of the pod. Big shout out to all the numbers who got involved tonight. Big shout out to everyone in the comments. We always appreciate your support and commentary. As I said earlier, get more people involved. It's such a vibrant community. Comment section's been going off all night. We love seeing new people in there and getting everybody talking all things Celtic. And thanks for going easy on me as host. I really appreciate it. Thank you, two fine gentlemen, for for making it a pleasure as well. We'll go to our final thoughts now, and Dan, I might go to you first if that's okay. I'll get you to lead off with the final thought.
No major big thoughts, but I did see someone's. I did like the Pork Schlup Express, but I heard someone say through the week, I think it might have even been on TikTok, ooh, ah, schlup the ra. And I just really wanted to make sure that got a mention because it really tickled my fancy. So, yeah, ooh, ah, schlup the ra.
Oh dear. Look, for me today, mine's going to be not music related, but TV drama related. So I'm a big fan of a TV show in Australia called The Newsreader. It's an ABC production. It's a drama about two sort of a fella and a lady who are newsreaders who are colleagues that then become partners, but then sort of split off again. And it's all based around the newsreading, a newsreading duo in Australia in the late 80s. And so it's a bit of a retro throwback series. It's had an incredible first 2 seasons. It's just come back for the 3rd season, and it's probably one of the best Australian dramas in the last 2 decades. It's really enjoyable to watch. The scripts are fantastic. The casting and acting is superb. I don't know what it's like overseas in terms of its availability, but if you do happen to come across the Newsreader overseas, I'd highly recommend checking it out. Wonderful cast, wonderful show. All right, Liam, bring us home, mate. And I don't even know if I'm going to try and ask you to keep it PG.
No, I was just going to share something that I read on the internet during the week, which, before all the hilarity of yesterday, somebody asked the question, why do British people always eat like it's the 1800s? And in fairness to the person who replied, why do Americans always eat like they've got free healthcare? I don't know. That just appealed to a bit political, but I thought that was quite funny.
On that note, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Always appreciate your time. Have a wonderful night, and let's hope the Celts get a win on Wednesday night. Hail, hail, everybody.
Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.